No, I go to the Renfest every year. Confession.
So you know jousting.
I love jousting. I love to just drink a cold beer, eat a turkey leg, and watch a joust.
I would love to go to the Renfest, but I don't like costumes at all.
And you don't like beer.
And I don't like beer.
But you like turkey legs.
I'm not even that big on turkey legs. I find turkey dry.
You like jousting.
I love jousting.
There we go.
Hello and welcome to the Critical Breakdown, the podcast where we start at the bottom of Rotten Tomatoes and work our way to 100% fresh. I'm Scott.
And I'm Max. And today we're talking about A Knight's Tale, rated 58% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Max, did you think A Knight's Tale was a nice tale?
It's not the nicest tale I've ever seen, but it's not the worst tale.
It's nice enough.
It's not my favorite anachronistic type of movie.
Right.
But it's okay.
Okay. We'll talk about it. So, Max, what have you been watching, my man?
Well, I started watching Glow on Netflix.
Yeah.
The Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Oh, that's what it's an acronym. I didn't realize. That makes sense. Is this based on like a true story?
I don't know how
Maybe
true.
Loosely.
I don't know how true the characters are, but Glow was a real thing.
Okay.
The reason I know that is because I've been digitizing some family tapes, some old VHS tapes from my childhood.
Okay.
Memories my family recorded. And one thing my dad has wedged between like my sister's birthday and Thanksgiving and my birthday are clips of the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
There you go.
Because that was worth keeping on a VHS family tape.
Maybe you could send that to Netflix to help them with their period research.
I might just throw some of that on YouTube.
That'll be good.
You know, see how it looks.
Yeah. Cool.
But
how's the show?
I'm enjoying it quite a bit. It's definitely more comedy than drama.
Okay.
But it's not as, I don't know. I like it basically. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. I mean, your main character is kind of down and out, and they got brought into this situation. And so what I like is the character, she's not necessarily doing all the wrong things.
Yeah.
She does start out doing some bad things, and then she's trying to like kind of make amends, and it's taking forever for her to try and be the right person based off her first mistake. So while I know a lot of people like Orange is the New Black, it's hard for me to get into that show because the main characters are always making terrible decisions.
Yeah.
They're in a terrible situation, so it's kind of double.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like a good balance of it. So I don't know. I like all the characters so far.
A little easier to root for, maybe.
Yeah, even characters that are kind of shady, you end up liking. Mark Maron's in it, and he's playing kind of like the director over everything.
Where would I know Mark Maron from?
He has he has like one of the most popular podcasts out there.
Outside of this, of course.
He's a comedian.
Okay.
He definitely has. I think it's WTF. What the fuck with Mark Maron?
Yeah, I think I've seen that on the top charts. He's below ours.
Yeah, exactly. He's known for being a former partner of Louis C.K., and they had a famous feud that they actually resolved on his podcast.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And then Louis brought him onto the show to kind of like
make amends, maybe.
Yeah, and kind of recreate the situation as well.
That's cool.
So now they're cool with each other, but they had like some issues for a while.
Sure.
And he played a bit part in Almost Famous. I mean, he's been in like small parts here and there. He looks just like Stan Lee. If they ever wanted to make a Stan Lee movie, Mark Maron could possibly do it. So
okay.
But no, it's good. Alison Brie.
Yeah, Alison Brie.
She's the main star. You have some other actresses that are probably going to have some breakout roles from here. You have Kate Nash, who used to be like a pop singer or something. She's in it. So
the name rings a bell, but again, I don't know why.
Yeah. But it's good. I'm enjoying it.
How far in are you?
I don't normally binge. I'm normally an anti-binger, and let me tell you why.
Oh.
Let me tell you why.
Because I'm team binge.
Yeah. You and my wife are both bingers. But my issue with binging is I like to take time to digest episodes. I like to think about the process that went into a single episode, the story, how it all adds up. I just like to digest things slowly. And I have no problems with people who binge. Like I'm not dissing
elitist
that.
over here.
I'm not dissing that. I just like
to digest my
I like to
shows.
marinate it, you know?
Sure.
Slow marinade.
I get that.
but I watched 5 episodes yesterday, so it's very easy to watch.
Welcome.
Yeah. I don't know when I'll get to finish the other 5, but
Okay, there's 10 episodes.
I think so. I think it's 10. I didn't check, but usually Netflix, you're getting a smaller amount first
There's like
run.
10 to 13.
Yeah. So, but
That's
it's
cool.
It's definitely, I recommend it. I mean, it's even if you don't like wrestling, because I used to watch wrestling when I was like 13 or 14.
Yeah.
Grown out of it since then. No disrespect to any wrestling fans out there. I know there's plenty. I think if you're a wrestling fan, you'll get plenty out of it, and if you just like good TV, there's just as much. So,
Cool. I'll have to put it on the list.
Yeah. There's a really good soundtrack as well. I don't know if it's going to be out, but it's just really good 80s music playing.
80s music. Is that the time period?
Yeah, it's mid 80s, I want to say, but some of it's songs that you've never like really looked the name up of. There's just and then of course you have your big hits that you'll know. So
a lot of familiar songs.
It's a good blend.
That's cool.
What about you? What you been watching?
Well, I've been watching. I decided to give another shot to a Netflix show that we've talked about on the pod, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Oh yeah.
I think I'm done again.
Mm-hmm.
I watched 4 episodes this time, and there were there's moments that make me laugh out loud. Like, what's her name? Jane Krakowski.
Yeah.
I think her character's hilarious,
Mm-hmm.
and there's little things that happen that I like, but the overall structure I'm not so into.
Yeah.
It might be the kind of show I just throw on in the background, but usually that's a show I've seen before.
Yeah.
So it's just not.
I feel like with comedies, if it doesn't grab you right away, you might just not. It just might not be your bag,
Yeah, I mean,
and people, that's fine.
there's no shame in it.
Yeah.
There's so much TV out there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's unbelievable how much good TV.
It's like
there
a buffet, a TV buffet.
Yeah, and you only got so much room in your TV stomach.
Some people want like the buffet pizza, and some people want the egg rolls.
What's the buffet pizza of TV?
I don't even know.
It's probably because that's like the main attraction. It's Game of Thrones.
Yeah, let's go with that.
And the buffet egg rolls.
It's your call. You're doing this. I'm in.
I feel like egg rolls are a bit of an acquired taste. Like some people just don't eat cabbage, so they're out.
That's true.
So you got to consider the people who just don't like zombies. So they're out. The Walking Dead is your
Walking Dead's your egg rolls. I could do that.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
And then your spring rolls, Fear the Walking Dead. We're there.
There we go.
But anyways, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt would be like the gummy bears. And I don't need gummy bears on my plate right now. I'm looking for savory. I'm not looking for sweet.
There we go. Scott Tennant hot takes.
There it is. But I did get to see one of the hot new releases of the summer. I saw Edgar Wright's Baby Driver.
I was really hoping you were going to say Transformers The Last Night.
I sort of want to see it. I can't lie. The story looks so stupid. We talked about it last week. But I'm not going to pay money to see that movie. I just can't in good faith do that.
Yeah, that's fair.
But anyways, Baby Driver is amazing. I'm not going to do any spoilers or anything. I know you haven't seen it, and I'm sure many of our listeners haven't seen it. But I think it should be high on your list.
Yeah.
Especially if you've liked anything that Edgar Wright's done, which I do. I like all of his movies. My favorite is probably Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and then Hot Fuzz. But I think my number one is now Baby Driver.
Nice.
That's only after one viewing. I do want to see it again. But
yeah. I've heard a lot of good stuff already with it. I know we've talked about it a ton.
We talked about it on the summer movie preview.
Just a ton. But yeah, like Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's currently 98%.
Yep.
It's opening as we record this, so by the weekend that might change. But
but the embargo's been lifted on reviews for a while,
so
so a lot are in. It's just, I mean, it's like a musical. It's like a mixtape car chase. It does car chases better than any other movie I've seen, just because there's a rhythm to it all. It's very kinetic. The pacing and editing are top notch, as you would expect from an Edgar Wright movie, but he really steps up the editing here. There's some things that are very impressive.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like Edgar Wright can go a little too much on like the cuts. Like there'll be quick cuts for comedy and stuff, and that works, but sometimes it's a little much. In this, there's a lot of really good long takes, and
that's cool.
It's just a really good movie. All the performances were great too.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx, John Hamm, Ansel Elgort. Is that how you pronounce it? Elgort? Yeah. I don't remember. Lily James. She was so charming. Just a really good movie, man. I don't want to say anything more because I don't want.
I always think Lily James is Felicity Jones for like one moment, and then I'm like, that's not Felicity Jones.
Yeah.
They don't really like look alike, But there's something about the lips and eyes and their face. That's the part that always confuses me. So I'm like, when did she get like blonde curly hair? That's weird. And I'm like,
I feel like
it's not her.
Felicity Jones has kind of a fuller cheekbone.
Yeah, probably.
And my eyes are always drawn to that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's always for like a fleeting moment.
Just a fleeting thought. Yeah, it's really good. The music's good. Not a lot of songs I'd heard before, but they all fit the scenes that they were in.
Yeah.
Just a really good movie, man. I recommend it.
Yeah, I'm going to try to see it as soon as possible.
It's my favorite movie so far of 2017, which we're only halfway through, but we're halfway through, so.
Sorry, my family keeps texting me.
That's okay.
Yeah, when I see it, we can converse.
Yeah, let's have a lengthier chat,
an in-depth conversation. But it's definitely on my to-see list.
Yeah, and listeners, you also see it, so you can join us in that conversation.
Yeah. I hope I get to see it before I see Spider-Man Homecoming.
Is Spider-Man Homecoming the next week?
It's
like the weekend after this episode comes out?
I think so. I think it's July 7th.
Yeah, so it is.
Yeah.
And that'll be interesting too. I think we're at the point now where it's like every week we're getting big movies. Doesn't Despicable Me 3 come out this week or this past weekend alongside Baby Driver?
That you never know. That might be the biggest of the summer because it's a family kids film. So
money-wise, I wouldn't be surprised. Though Wonder Woman and Homecoming are going to get big money too.
Yeah,
but
sure.
Despicable Me is always a safe bet, and it's getting good reviews. So.
I'm very interested to see how Homecoming does.
Yeah,
because I mean the original Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans were like money makers.
Yeah.
The Amazings, they did well, but they didn't.
They both made money.
Yeah.
But
they weren't like gangbusters. By that point, we had seen some. We had seen some bigger films.
Yeah.
And then, so now it's kind of like, well, MCU movies, like the big tentpole ones, just kill it.
Yep.
This is that and not that at the same time. So.
But I think more people are going to associate it with that because of him being in like Civil War and Infinity War and stuff.
Really smart.
You know what's funny is Tom Holland is kind of famous now for spoiling things in his interviews.
Mm-hmm.
And I read that they won't let him read the script for Infinity War.
Yeah.
Which is smart.
Didn't they just start filming that?
I want to say they started like 2 months ago.
Okay.
But there's like a million characters.
I just have seen a ton of set photos this week of like Tony Stark in costume.
Yeah.
So
I guess that means he survives Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Spoilers.
Speaking of superhero movies, I rewatched one that I like, X-Men First Class.
That's a classic.
Yeah. It had been a while since I'd seen it. I think this might even be the first time I saw it since theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to throw something on that I can watch and enjoy. Yeah. And I watched some of it, started to doze off, went to bed, woke up, finished it in the morning. Just really good movie, man.
I think if you were to do a point system for rating the X-Men movies, that'd probably be my second favorite. My first is still X-Men 2. Yeah. But First Class is like right next to it for me.
My favorite is either First Class or Logan.
That's fair.
X2 is really good.
Yeah.
Too. The first X-Men, it's been so long since I've seen it.
It's dated. We talked about it in our X-Men special. It's dated, but it's still fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're watching an older movie. It's like watching Richard Donner Superman. Like we've left that behind in the realm of like movies.
It's like a Hall of Fame
It's a classic
thing
still.
now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
but I love First Class because it's so different than the other ones.
It's fun.
Like they have those yellow costumes and everything.
I love the costumes.
I fucking love Kevin Bacon, man.
My biggest complaint with all X-Men movies, not enough costumes.
And that's a big complaint that everybody has.
Yeah.
The one thing I noticed on this second viewing, though, was the first half of First Class was a little longer than it needed to be, I think. Mm-hmm. They wandered a little when they should have been jogging.
Yeah.
But it all sets up to that huge set piece, like in Cuba. Yeah, it was Cuba, right?
Yeah.
And it's a very long set piece, but it's fine because there's pretty much no action in the first hour and a half of the movie. So when you get this big half-hour set piece, it pays off.
Yeah.
So
and it's a good payoff. They raise the stakes so that it's not like a world-ending thing, but it's all of them, and they have to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
I really like that movie, actually. Yeah. I would love if... That's Matthew Vaughn, right?
That's Matthew Vaughn.
If he would return to the X series, I would love it.
Yeah, he's doing Kingsman, so he's pretty...
Yeah. He's found a good franchise for himself. So.
Yeah, Kingsman's really good, and it suits him pretty well. I feel like with X-Men, you have more... I don't know the right way to put it, but I mean, there's like a cinematic universe at play there, so you're more kind of constrained by that. Whereas Kingsman, and when the first one came out, I don't think anyone expected it to do as well as it did.
Yeah.
And he kind of had free reign to do what he wanted. And so the sequel, he has the same. But it's also Fox, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll come back.
You never know.
Yeah.
But I'd be down with it just because he understood things like costumes, like making the team have fun even if they have tension between them.
Yeah.
Making it seem like a team. Like he got a lot of like the basics that makes X-Men work.
Yeah, and he nailed the Professor Xavier and Magneto relationship. Yeah. Like that is a foundation that Days of Future Past and Apocalypse and probably whatever they're going to call the next one are all built on. Dark Phoenix, is that official?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Guess it's official.
Guess it's official.
No. But, no, it's good. If you get a chance to watch it again, do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's good.
They had some, like, actual 60s music in that film, didn't they?
I believe they did. Yeah. Maybe even earlier.
Do you think having period piece music inside of a film really helps?
You know, I don't think it's necessarily necessary. It's not necessarily necessary. You could take an older period and inject it with new life, with new music.
Could you?
Yeah. What's an example? A Knight's Tale.
That is a bringer back for the ages.
That's not a hashtag bringer back, though, because I don't think that was loose.
Yeah.
It was very artificial. Sometimes they roll naturally. We set that up.
We set that up.
But
you
now that we're talking about it,
Yeah.
What's A Knight's Tale about? What's the story here?
After his master dies, a peasant squire, fueled by his desire for food and glory, creates a new identity for himself as a knight.
That's a very loose summary.
Is it?
I don't like the whole fueled by his desire for food and glory.
That's how it begins.
That's like the first minute, literally. And then after that, it all changes.
So fueled by glory.
Glory. I want a big sip. Oh, God. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
So why'd we pick this one?
Well, I was pretty neutral going in. I think on this heat, we didn't really have anything that yelled yes towards us. There was a couple of okay, sure.
Yeah.
And then you had pretty fond memories of this one.
Yeah, when I was young, I remember this being just a great movie, and I had assumed up until we started the research here that A Knight's Tale was like a well-regarded movie that everybody universally loved. Like I assumed it was going to be in the 80s. And that people on Reddit would like it and Letterboxd and all these places, but it's just not. It's like middling like this.
Yeah.
So I was shocked. I wanted to watch it again.
I remember when it came out, I had a lot of friends who loved it. But I mean, at the same time, I know a lot of people who love Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Even pre-Joker, I kind of knew a bunch of people who like just always loved his movies. He got big for
10 Things I
Hate About You, and he had like a good fandom after that, just slowly building.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I never saw it, but I had a bunch of friends who were like, "You gotta see Knight's Tale," and I was just like, "eh."
The thing about Knight's Tale is there's so much going on in the movie that I feel like everybody can find one thing that they really like and like latch onto that.
Yeah.
On the rewatch, at least I got that. But again, when I first saw it, I was like 13, so
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good movie. What didn't we watch?
Well, right off the bat, one thing that's kind of similar that we could have watched was Knights of Badassdom.
Knowing nothing about it, I'm assuming Jack Black?
No, I know Peter Dinklage is in it. It's like a movie at a Ren Fest, I want to say. It's like a LARPing. They're LARPing and they conjure a demon from hell.
Okay.
Summer Glau and Steve Zahn are in it. It doesn't look good.
Was it like a full-length release or like indie or I've literally never heard of it.
I think it's I don't think it was a big release.
Its box office was 120,000.
Yeah. Yeah. It looks stupid. I don't even want to make you watch the trailer.
You watched it?
Yeah, I've seen the trailer before. It's not.
You know, my favorite movie with LARPing in it is Role Models.
I got a story about that for another time, but
I'll keep that in my pocket then.
Me Before You.
Is this Daenerys and the wheelchair guy?
Yeah, it's Daenerys and the wheelchair guy. It's based off a book, I think.
I believe it.
The trailer looked like overly sweet.
Yeah. I know a lot of women who were really into it.
Yeah. Emilia Clarke looks adorable with brown hair, but that's my only takeaway.
And wasn't the wheelchair dude the guy from the Hunger Games?
Yeah.
I don't remember the actor. I'm sorry to whomever you are.
What's funny is this trailer made me think of a French film I saw called The Untouchables.
Yeah, it looks
I think
like
it was
the exact
Untouchables.
same.
Yeah. Looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
But that's a great movie. The French one, if you ever want to see something great.
Yep.
Then there's The Weatherman.
Old Nicky Cage.
I actually really liked this movie when I saw it. I haven't seen it since theatrical release, but I thought it was a good guy down on his luck kind of story.
I always got this and The Family Man crossed because I think they're both guy down on his luck stories, right?
Yeah, they actually, I think, and they're both Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
so I think that's fair.
That's really fair, honestly. iRobot.
iRobot was probably a contender here, just
iRobot,
because it's a pretty popular movie.
Yeah, and it's I know it's the first movie I saw on Blu-ray.
Ooh,
I was like, wow,
the ultimate HD experience.
Yeah. It was not that impressive, but it looked good. I remember thinking, this does look really good.
Did Alan Tudyk do the voice of...
yeah, he was the robot.
Was it Sonny? Was that the robot's name?
I think so.
But I feel like he does a lot of robot voices, because now I know of 2 things he's done robot voices in.
And he's in this movie, A Knight's Tale.
Boom.
Taken.
Taken would have been a fun one to watch.
We've mentioned all the Taken sequels like every time we come across, so I felt like we should mention it.
Taken and its sequels are the antithesis to Baby Driver, where Baby Driver is meticulously edited to perfection and Taken is over-edited to vomit.
It's like a dude put meth directly into his dick and started editing with his dick, basically. So,
no, there's a mental image.
Speaking of mental images, it's kind of a funny story.
Nice.
So, I've seen this. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not really worth talking about.
I think it tries to be too indie.
Yeah.
Like, it tries to be that quirky indie movie with the, like, manic pixie dream mental girl and Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah.
It felt like Zach Galifianakis' attempt at, like, a serious role a la Robin Williams.
Yeah, I was going to say it's his light Robin Williams.
Yeah.
It's okay.
If you
caught it on
totally
TV,
harmless.
It's not a waste of your night.
What's interesting is there's better movies about mental illness and teenagers, like The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah.
And even that movie's not that great, but this movie had a really good opportunity to make a statement about mental illness and everything, and it just doesn't.
Yeah.
It just becomes sappy.
It's true.
All of it.
And then speaking of sappy, one of my personal favorites, Blast from the Past.
Yeah, this is another Fraser, right?
Yeah.
Brendan Fraser.
Yeah. So couldn't double dip that soon.
Yeah.
It's a really fun movie.
It's not your fault, Blast from the Past.
Yeah.
A fun little anecdote. This Christmas, a family member got me a DVD copy of Blast from the Past on DVD.
Was this have you watched it yet?
No. Okay. I'm at a point in my life, like, I kind of collect Blu-rays.
It's hard to throw a DVD in.
It's really hard to throw a DVD in because you don't even notice if someone's already playing a DVD when you get to their house. It's fine.
Yeah.
But if you just watched a Blu-ray and then you have to switch to a DVD, it's really tough.
We've done it like 3 times on the count, and we felt dirty every time.
Willow was one of them because it literally does not exist on Blu-ray.
I feel like with Master of Disguise, you just got the DVD, but I don't remember.
Yeah. That and Mac and Me, just because that was the early days.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make the Blu-ray investment when I wasn't sure if this was going to take off.
Wow.
What? But now I buy the Blu-rays because I don't want to sell these movies short. You know, you buy a DVD, you're already putting yourself in a weird mindset.
When I see Heath Ledger and his dreadlocked hair, I want to see it in the highest definition possible.
Now, I watched it on Blu-ray. Did you rent it on Amazon or something?
I did. Yeah.
So this was one of, I believe, only 2 movies that we've watched separately.
Yeah.
This in the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Because I was in Tampa on a business trip. I remember it fondly. Not watching with you. I'm just kidding.
So how did A Knight's Tale do in the box office?
Oh, man, not too well, which explains why there's no sequel. I feel like they could have done a sequel.
I feel like they wanted to do a sequel.
Yeah, but we had a $65 million budget. Today, that sounds like a mid-budget film.
Yeah,
These days, that's pretty big.
If you guys could see my face, I did that's not that bad face.
Yeah. But it only did $56.6 million domestic, a total of like a little over $100 million.
Yeah.
It opened at $16.5 million, number 2 behind The Mummy Returns.
I was gonna say for like not a big name, anything. That's not a terrible open, but it's not great.
See, my memory on this movie is totally warped because I thought this was like a big release.
Yeah.
Like, was Heath Ledger considered a star here? May 11th, 2001? Not yet?
No.
Right.
People knew him. Like I said, people liked him.
Yeah.
He had a small following, but nothing like major.
Sure.
Because there was still a lot of blowback when they announced him as the Joker.
Yeah.
There were people like, that guy, the gay cowboy as the Joker? I would say by the time Brokeback rolled around, he was like a legit, established actor. This was still like right on the cusp.
Like with Brokeback, Jake Gyllenhaal was the more questionable choice because like Bubble Boy in an Ang Lee movie.
Bubble Boy's gone gay.
That's not very good performance-wise.
No.
So you're not gonna build a franchise around this.
Nope.
But it's better than a lot of movies I've seen that got franchises. So
Yeah.
Mazel tov.
Yeah. I would take this over a lot of major franchises out right now.
For sure. Like this
About Knights.
I saw King Arthur, and A Knight's Tale's much better.
Yeah.
And I love Guy Ritchie, but that movie was a mess.
Yeah.
But the nice thing about this movie is like there's a fun cast. Like Heath Ledger, we've obviously mentioned. Paul Bettany's in it.
Paul Bettany's amazing in this movie.
Paul Bettany is the thing that I latched onto. Paul Bettany's the highlight of the movie.
Sure.
He plays Geoffrey Chaucer, the writer of the Canterbury Tales.
And he just glows when he's on the screen,
He
man.
owns it, man.
He runs around. He controls every
naked.
moment, which
Yeah.
is great for his character because that's how he's written supposed to be. He's supposed to be like a hype man.
Yeah.
And he controls the
nails it.
crowd
Yeah.
every single time.
It's awesome.
You have Mark Addy.
Yeah. I know I've seen him in more, but I couldn't name it.
He is King Robert Baratheon, first of his name.
Oh my god! Yeah, he looks so different in
without the
that.
giant beard, he just looks kind of goofy.
And he's much bigger in this movie.
Yeah. He's also in the Full Monty, I want to say.
I don't know.
And I think I'm not 100% on this. He might have been in, and I'm sure somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. He might have been in the Flintstones' Viva Rock Vegas.
I feel like that sounds right because John Goodman was out at that point.
Yeah.
And so Mark Addy might have stepped in.
Maybe.
I can picture it.
Yeah, I'm going off memory there, so I might be wrong. But he was fine in this. I mean, he played one of the comic relief guys.
He's definitely like more of the straight guy, less of the quirky. Like he's alongside Alan Tudyk's Watt quite a bit. And Alan Tudyk's very funny in this movie too.
I like that you can't understand what he's saying half the time, but you can tell by his actions what he's doing. Yeah. And Mark Addy has more of the, I'm trying to think of a good example here, but like your classic comedians where you have the big burly guy slapping the skinny guy around. He's more like that kind of comic relief. Like, shut up, and then he slaps him.
I was about to say Tommy Boy, but that's not like that.
No, that's like the flip side of that almost.
Yeah.
But then you also have Rufus Sewell.
Yeah, he plays our villain, Count Atamar.
Yeah.
What else has he been in? I feel like there's a lot of people in this who it's that guy.
Rufus Sewell, I mean, yeah, he's definitely an that guy kind of actor. He is in Hercules.
Yeah.
The Dwayne Johnson Hercules. I know him from The Pillars of the Earth, which is like a British TV show.
Okay.
But you might know him from Dark City, The Man in the High Castle, Gods of Egypt.
So he's been around.
Yeah. He's always, hey, I know that guy.
Yeah. He makes a living with it.
He's got intense eyes.
Yeah.
Really intense eyes.
He looks like if Gladiator was not a Ridley Scott movie and had a much smaller budget, and the first couple people said no to playing the Emperor there, he could have been Joaquin Phoenix's understudy.
I've seen him in other stuff. He's a pretty good actor overall.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's not going to be Joaquin level, but...
No, but not many are.
Yeah, he's pretty solid.
Yeah.
You also have James Purefoy.
Yeah, from... I already forgot. We looked.
You might know him as Mark Antony in Rome.
Yeah. The TV series, the HBO series, right?
Yeah. He's also Solomon Kane in the much forgotten Solomon Kane movie.
It's so forgotten that we looked at it 10 minutes before starting recording because I was like, what's this guy been in? And I already forgot it.
Yeah. And then you had Shannyn Sossamon.
Yeah. I feel like she was a potential like late 90s kind of it girl, you know?
Yeah, she was on the very edge of it girl.
Yeah.
I know some people who were big fans of hers.
Yeah.
Like posters on the wall kind of fan of her.
No.
And, I mean, her star never really took off. She stayed in some indie stuff. I think she was in a Rolling Stones music video at one point. She very much looks like late 90s, early 2000s across the board. That's her style and her look.
She looks like she was in Bend It Like Beckham. And I don't know if she was. And I don't want to look it up now because that's real life in my head.
Yeah, there we go.
But she also was not very good in this, I didn't think.
Yeah, I was really
probably one of the
underwhelmed by her.
Most underwhelming. Yeah.
You had Laura Fraser, who I actually liked a lot more than Shannyn Sossamon personally, as well as you threw her name out earlier. Shannyn Sossamon's character had like a handmaid that helped her out.
Yeah.
Don't remember her name, but it was like Bernice something.
Yeah, I didn't write it down.
I liked both of them.
Yeah.
They did stuff.
They sure did.
So yeah, this is
the women in this movie are not given much to do.
No, they're basically just there to look pretty and be the favors for the men.
Yep.
That's literally like one of the plot points. Are the two men fighting for her approval.
Yep.
So this movie isn't.
It's not
it could honestly break.
Something.
Like you could break barriers with this film. You could push things around. You could do an interesting take on stuff. But
it would have been cool to do something with like the women in the movie because you're already doing like the dialogue and the music especially, but you're modernizing these things.
Yeah, the fashion.
Yeah. So you could have done some stuff, but they didn't. And
this was written and directed by Brian Heleland.
Yeah, Academy Award winner.
Yeah, he actually has like a really interesting resume.
He has a really good career writing because he wrote, or him and Curtis Hanson wrote L.A. Confidential. That's what he won the Oscar for. He wrote Mystic River. He wrote and directed 42, the Jackie Robinson movie, which I haven't even seen, but it got good reviews.
Yeah.
So
he's done some less loved films, The Postman, which I personally love, but I know that critically it's not.
Did he direct that one too?
No.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, he's just had a very diverse resume that you can't really find a strong pattern other than he did the screenplay for Robin Hood. You know?
Yeah, what's interesting is other than the movies that he wrote and directed, he's usually on a big team of writers. Like L.A. Confidential had 3 writers. Mystic River had 4 writers. So, and I don't know enough about any of this to know if that means anything really, but it's just kind of worth mentioning.
Yeah, let's just get into the fact that he's not like a new director or writer. He has a good birth of experience, but at the same time, this movie isn't blowing anyone's mind.
This isn't a resume maker.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's loosely inspired by The Knight's Tale, which was written by Geoffrey Chaucer.
There you go.
I think it's very loosely inspired by it. I tried reading a synopsis and I was like, that doesn't sound anything like this.
It's also tough to read Chaucer because isn't it like Old English?
Yeah, but if you find like a good
translation,
it's pretty fun. I did enjoy learning about Chaucer.
Yeah, I remember reading him in high school, I think, and I was a high schooler, so I didn't care.
You're like, screw this.
My favorite Scott reading a book in high school story is that for The Tale of Two Cities, I didn't read any of the first half. I don't know if you've read it, but it's part 1, part 2.
Mm-hmm.
I read the second half and loved it, but I literally didn't read any of the first half.
That's funny.
So.
I read that one because a friend was like, it's like an action movie.
The second half is.
Yeah, so I read it as an action movie, and I was like, this is amazing.
Has there been a good adaptation of that movie?
Honestly, don't know.
I feel like you could do it.
Thank you. I'll try.
That's...
Yeah, royal you. Like somebody could do it.
Somebody could do it. But you could. But you can make like 2 movies, just one called London and one called Paris.
Ooh. I like it.
There he is.
So this film's kind of set in this like missing year about Geoffrey Chaucer.
Yeah.
That like no scholar really knows about what happened to him.
He's borderline a mythical figure too. Like he's definitely real.
Yeah.
But the stories about him and what he wrote about himself is very odd.
And
there's a missing year.
And seeing Paul Bettany do this film, how he did it, I'm like, I'm in.
He nailed it.
That should have been the next film, is just more Chaucer.
If this movie got a sequel, I'd want Chaucer to be the main character.
Yeah, and I mean, that would actually kind of work for,
Yeah.
his tales would be him just in different scenarios.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
I love that idea, actually.
Yeah. I'm in.
They filmed in Prague, and there was a language barrier. So with Chaucer, when he first does his first big speech at like the sword dueling, and everyone stares, and then Mark Addy is like, hurrah, or whatever he does. That actually is how it happened, and they just kept the camera rolling.
It was like a perfect moment, though.
Yeah.
Especially for Chaucer, because he's all using this huge language and stuff, and it's a bunch of peasants watching this sword fighting tournament. And it works really well, because they're like, what is this?
Yeah.
And no one else had a guy like Chaucer as their hype man.
Yeah.
Like some of the other knights had people introducing them, but they were always very like just reading their titles
like
and very by the book.
and stuff, yeah.
So Chaucer was really cool in this movie.
Yeah, they honestly, like you said, there's stuff for everybody in this movie to a degree, and that's definitely one of the better parts there.
And then there's like a moment in the second half where he's writing a letter to Jocelyn, and Chaucer's the one doing the writing for the most part, and everybody kind of puts a piece in, but it was just really cool.
I like that part, yeah. I did really enjoy the
jousting.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the name. I was acting out jousting.
It was great.
No, I go to the Renfest every year. Confession.
So jousting.
I love jousting. I love to just drink a cold beer, eat a turkey leg, and watch a joust.
I would love to go to the Renfest, but I don't like costumes at all.
And you don't like beer.
And I don't like beer.
But you like turkey legs.
I'm not even that big on turkey legs. I find turkey dry.
You like jousting.
I love jousting.
There we go.
It was actually impressive in this movie, too.
There's a lot of great shots with the jousting.
Yeah.
The camera works really nice there.
Yeah, I felt like if this movie was lazier or cheaper, there'd be a lot of quick cuts and stuff, so you never quite get the real look at it. And then it's cheaper to make, probably. But they held their shots really well.
There's tracking shots.
Yeah.
There's great camera work with
There's
the
cool
shots.
like point of view from the horseman shots, like good moving left to right with a horse. It's really good, actually.
And I had some company over while I was watching the movie, and all of us, we would stop and watch no matter what, even if they were on their phones. Their eyes would get glued to the screen as soon as that joust would start.
Yeah.
So the movie does that really well.
Just like back in Chaucer's Missing Year.
Yeah, just like back in medieval London, people would just drop their cell phones and watch the joust.
Yeah.
So just this is kind of funny. In our research, we came across the fact that Columbia Pictures put out a fake review on a print ad from someone named David Manning, fake name, from the Ridgefield Press.
In Connecticut. And that's a real publication.
It's a real publication, but they put a fake name and put a review on this and some other movies like The Animal.
Yeah.
And I remember this when it happened. It was like a big scandal because that's a huge no-no.
Yeah, it's lying.
Yeah, it's literally lying to your customers.
And here's the thing. Why do that when there's small media stuff like us, who if you pay us will say anything?
We're all about fake news.
Yeah.
But no, like, it's not even that hard to find someone who likes a movie. I mean, just look at
Someone liked Master of Disguise.
Yeah. This is a 58, so more people like this than they disliked it. Yeah. Should not have been that hard.
No.
The Animal I get. Yeah, no one's going to like that.
I have a weird relationship with the movie The Animal because I saw it when I was too young. I was like 9.
Yeah.
I think my dad rented it once or something. Sorry, Dad, if Mom wasn't supposed to know.
Hot takes.
But so I've always like held it very close to my heart because I'm like, oh, I've seen The Animal when I was a kid. And it had Colleen Haskell from Survivor Borneo. She was America's sweetheart in the year 2000 after Survivor came out. She was the star of The Animal, and then she dropped off the face of the earth. Not literally, but like nobody knows what she's up to.
Oh, yeah. I do remember her.
I want to say she got 6th or 7th place on Survivor Borneo, and she was just America's sweetheart. And then she...
Yeah, one of my buddies in high school, I remember he had a big crush on her, but I had no idea who she was.
There you go.
So I think we watched The Animal because she was in it. But in my head, true confession, I forgot that Colleen Haskell was in this film. In my head, it was just Dido.
Well, don't short sell Colleen Haskell like that.
Hold on.
She's no Colleen Haskell. I get it, but
Like
she's
here,
no
like
Colleen
this.
Haskell.
Yeah, so they put out this fake media, which is stupid. Because the movie's pleasant enough as it is.
Yeah. I want to know what the print ad said.
Yeah.
Because it must have been something ridiculous.
Yeah, it couldn't have been more than like a sentence is the thing.
But
On a
what could
print
that
ad?
sentence say that riled people up enough to look into it? Or do you think someone that like worked at the Ridgefield Press was like, who's David Manning?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe we can do a special episode where we investigate.
I think it was Newsweek who broke the story. So who knows what they were investigating. Yeah. It could have been leaked as well. Somebody could have called them with the truth.
It's
You
a
never
big
know.
story waiting to happen.
It kind of is.
We need to resurface it 20 years later. We'll do it in 2020.
So this film has, we touched on it right off the bat, and then we haven't actually gone into it too much. It has modern music playing over the action sequences.
Yeah, it has a lot of like stadium rock.
Yeah.
Like We Will Rock You.
That's kind of like the iconic song with
Yeah.
it. So I want to say the trailers might have used it, but I don't remember.
They might have. Because the scene is like as Heath Ledger's William Thatcher's getting ready for his first joust, the whole crowd is doing the like pound your feet and clap for We Will Rock You. And it does kind of set the tone of weirdness and
You know,
it's
right
fun.
off the bat, this ain't your grandfather's jousting flick.
Yeah.
You have Queen playing,
Yeah.
and when we did our research here, their intention was that music was like it's an important part of cultural sporting events.
Yeah.
Now and then. So how now we interpret music is how they would have interpreted music at the same time. But if you just do like chamber music, it's not going to be the same effect. If you just do a medieval song they're singing, unless everyone knows that song, it's not going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and it wouldn't resonate the same emotions that We Will Rock You brings out.
Yeah. And then also at one point, I think during Ebert's review, he pointed out had they used just like classic orchestrated music, that actually wouldn't have existed at this time. It would have been a different type of it wouldn't have been like the classic music.
Yeah.
So even that would have been out of time.
And you know what? I mean, this movie's not shooting for authenticity.
Yeah.
It was
not at
just
all.
fun.
Yeah.
Like, I had some issues. Some of the dialogue was, like, weirdly half-modern. I can't remember a specific line, but at one point, Heath Ledger's William Thatcher's describing Jocelyn's clothing or something, and he uses, like, a very new word for it, and I can't remember what it was. But
Yeah.
and it felt very out of place.
Just Jocelyn herself. I didn't like that character.
Yeah, she had, like, that late 90s, like, spiked out random hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she doesn't bring anything to the movie.
Yeah.
She's not given any moral conflict. She's not given any nuance.
And she's kind of like perfect from the get-go in every single way. She accepts him when she finds out he's lying.
Yep.
Not even mad, which is, I don't even care about that. Like, that's fine. But then she goes and gets his blind father, and it's like, you know, everything about her, she's just infallible.
Yeah.
So it's just a flat character.
Yeah, it's totally flat. There's nothing there to really sink your teeth in.
I mean, your villain's a flat character here as well.
Yeah, but I kind of liked him.
He at least had motivation. Yeah, he's a likable flat character. Yeah. But like his motivation is, you know, this poor fool showed him up, and so he wants to destroy his reputation.
He's kind of a lawful evil because he went about it in the. Well, let's find out if that guy's really a knight. If Ulrich von Liechtenstein is really a knight.
And then once he realized he wasn't, he was like, "Oh, then I could just like get rid of this guy. It doesn't matter."
This guy.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on when you mentioned his blind father. One of the issues with this movie is there's so many tiny plot lines that they try and like bring up. So you have this William Thatcher and Count Adhemar rivalry for Jocelyn. And then you have this sort of subplot of Mark Addy's Roland and her handmaiden. Like there was some flirtation there. And then you have the female silversmith or blacksmith working with the armor and being mocked by the other blacksmiths and stuff like that. And then the whole father bombshell where William's father's a blind guy living in London.
Yeah.
And then you have all the stuff about how William's not a knight, so he shouldn't be doing any of this, and he's lying about his lineage, and you have the bets that Geoffrey Chaucer's lost. He owes a lot of money. There's so many strands that it never forms a coherent braid.
And one of the key strands that they need that runs through the whole plot is James Purefoy's Black Prince.
Yeah.
He's like one of the royal family
of Wales or something.
Yeah,
I feel like,
and I mean he's going through the whole movie. He starts as he's like a lesser known knight, but of like an actual house and stuff.
I thought that was a fake, like a pseudonym that he was using so that he could joust.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that's exactly right. But he's in costume basically.
Yeah.
And so
he's got a helmet covering his whole face and body basically.
Is it Adamar?
It's either Adamar or
the bad guys.
Athamar.
The bad guy. What's his name?
Athamar or Adamar. Colville was his knight.
Okay, yeah. So Athamar is supposed to fight Colville, and then he's like, "Oh no, that's Edward.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that."
His like page runs up to him and he lays down his lance, because no one wants to hurt the like crown royalty, basically.
Yeah. Except William Thatcher, aka Sir Ulrich,
from Liechtenstein.
He's like, I can't lay down my lance. Like, we have to actually duel.
Yeah, and I think part of that was because the first time they showed Adamar laying down his lance, you could see the disappointment on Colville's face.
Yeah.
Or on the Black Knight, whatever his actual name was, I don't remember, but you could see the disappointment on his face. So then when Thatcher's in there and they're doing the same thing, he does forfeit, but then Thatcher rides anyways. And Colville like smirks and he gets in there and they're like, "What were you doing?" And he's like, "If he picks up the lance and rides the horse, he's making this choice," or something. I don't remember. That was a terrible whatever I was doing, but he earns his respect there.
Yeah.
So
and afterwards he's like, "Thank you for actually
and he says
riding."
Like, "Did you know?"
Yeah.
He's like, "I knew." What voices are these?
I don't even know.
Stop me.
I'm gonna try. I'll kick you next time. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and
there's a shit ton going on.
And it sometimes works to the detriment of the film, but I never take it so seriously that I care that much, because the actual movie moves along pretty well.
Yeah.
Even with all these weird things, it never gets stuck on one of them.
It's 2 hours and 12 minutes, I want to say.
I'm surprised. I assumed it was 90 minutes, because it really does fly.
It feels a lot faster. And I think a big part of that is, like we said, there's compelling movement within the action scenes. Yeah. There's also I'm going to go on a limb here, 5 to 6 montages in this movie.
Yeah, and I think that's fine.
I said they should retitle it a medieval montage.
Wow.
There's like the first montage of them training.
Yeah. There's one of him winning a bunch of tournaments.
There's the winning montage. There's like
#winning.
There's like a learning to dance montage.
Yeah, but that wasn't so much a montage, because it wasn't like a bunch of time passing.
It doesn't have to be time. It just has to be scenes connected with music. Time passes because that was like a day passing as he learned to dance. I'd
say that's looser. It's a
montage.
I think that was looser.
But no, there's like 2 more that happen.
Looser.
And I love it, because it just moves the story along, and in this kind of film, you can't even be upset about that.
Yeah, and you're not like missing anything with the montages.
No, I mean, it's better for these scenarios. It's just a lot in here.
So I want to talk about King Arthur: Legend of the Sword real quick. It's fresh enough maybe that we should drop a here be spoilers here. Here be spoilers. King Arthur: Legend of the Sword uses montage for literally 100% of the character development. As Arthur goes from a child to a street delinquent, it's all in montage. Then when it goes from street delinquent to king, it's all in montage. You're missing out on major portions of his character, and by using montage instead of real character development, they're just telling you he's a good king now. And it's not satisfying. Here, the montage is used just to speed things along. We don't need to see him dance with Paul Bettany for 45 minutes to get it.
No.
We just say, okay, he's learning to dance. Boom, he's danced.
Exactly.
We don't need to see him win all these tournaments. And the way they did that one was cool, too, because it was like Adamar had to go back to battle or something in Normandy. I forget what it was, but because he was an actual soldier. And it was like he was flipping through the book of all the tournaments, like who had won them. It was all Ulrich. And as he was flipping through, it was like they were showing his wins. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. The one I had a big problem with was the training one, because the tone of that one is so slapstick.
Yeah.
That it doesn't match the rest of the movie.
Also, like, a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, he's doing chariot stuff at one point.
Yeah.
He's in water.
That didn't make much sense either.
Yeah, so like the beginning of the film, the first couple minutes, I was like, yeah. And then by the time they got to the actual jousting, I was like, this is better.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing is, who is this movie for?
I
Because
don't know, man.
A kid, like an 8 or 9-year-old, I don't think would really get this.
Yeah.
The moments like that training montage where he pokes the guy, or he falls off the horse and he hits the guy with the blunt sword or something, and they get mad at each other. Those moments are where a kid's gonna like it. And then, but the fact that the main conflict is about like royal lineage, that's not gonna work for a kid. But the movie's not serious enough to really work for adults. And that might have been its problem. That might be why it didn't do well at the box.
It's just a couple notes on that. There's this romantic plot that we mentioned.
Yep.
It's not romantic enough for people who love romance.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like
for
swooning romance. There's
a dance.
There's light chemistry between the leads.
Yeah.
Light chemistry.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say there's deep chemistry.
I liked the scene where he rode his horse into a church. I thought that was funny.
That's unique. I haven't seen that much.
And the priest like shoos him, and she like giggles. And
yeah. So there's, I mean, like we said, there's some romance, but not enough to be a romantic film.
Certainly not.
And then towards the end, it takes like a real dramatic turn for the final like climax.
Yeah.
Where he gets arrested for, being a false personality or whatever, for lying to the
falsifying the records and everything.
He's in a dungeon. He gets beat up by Athamar. And then he's in the stocks, and they're discussing what they can do with him.
Yep.
And then like the heir to the throne, the Black Prince, shows back up, and he's like, "You, sir, are a knight."
Yeah.
It's just all super serious there. Then you go back to the jousting.
Yeah.
There's a light moment of levity with Chaucer again, but it's
where
actually
he does
a more
another
dramatic
introduction
speech.
for him.
Yeah. So this whole part is like super dramatic, and then it just cuts right to like when he actually wins and defeats Athamar. This like goofy scene where they're above him,
where he's like floating just above the ground.
Yeah.
It was just like Gladiator, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's what we immediately were laughing, just saying like, it's like Gladiator.
And him and all his crew go right above him. There's this line that he said to him a few times throughout the movie. It was like, "You have been
weighed, and
you've been weighed,
measured.
measured, and something, and found wanting."
Yeah.
That was the line, and they said it back to him, and I didn't have any. It was goofy, but I didn't have a problem with it.
It's such a tonal shift to serious, then back to comedy.
Yeah.
That it's like weird.
It could never settle on one coherent tone.
Now, when he was levitating above the ground, I legit thought he stabbed himself on his own lance. And I was like, damn. And then I was like, oh, that didn't happen. Yeah. There's no blood coming out of his mouth. That's how you know.
There you go. The whole reuniting with his father, too. It's such a dud of a plot line.
Yeah.
But it's so feel good that I didn't feel offended by it.
Yeah, it's saccharine sweet.
Like, we already know that he's a peasant. Yeah. We don't need, like, more. He has a blind peasant father, too.
If this was a straight serious movie, his father would have died while he was gone.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. In a terrible way, too.
Yeah.
Like, a way that he somehow could have prevented.
Yeah. So.
I want to mention one more thing with the climax. In the jousting, he has to take all of his armor off. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it is.
No one would have let him do that.
Yeah.
Especially because he was a knight at that point.
Well, they probably thought he was going to die anyway, so they're like, this makes it easier.
Yeah, they're like, he has a flesh wound. He's already dead.
Yeah.
And then somehow he wins that jousting match.
Yeah. But he has his lance strapped to his arm.
Yeah, he can't even hold it.
He's been stabbed. What
was funny, too, was he was stabbed with, like, an illegal, like, sharpened point on the joust. It's supposed to just be like a blunt end, and Adamar had a sharpened thing under there, like the fist that surrounded the pointy
spun sugar.
Yes, it was spun sugar. So he gets stabbed in the shoulder, and he can't lift his arm. He can't even hold the lance. He somehow lifts it enough to knock Adamar off. But then right afterward, after the lance is gone, he's like hopping over railings and hugging people and stuff. So maybe it's the adrenaline.
Maybe. You got that adrenaline heals.
Yeah. And you know what I liked, though? Like, King Arthur, or really any movie, it's action comedy, and the action can be very generic. Here, because all the action was basically jousting, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one of my favorite things about Catch Me If You Can, a much better movie than this, and not really similar at all. But it's an action comedy where there's basically no violence. And it's just really refreshing in an age where it feels like especially, I mean, this is before any of this, but after The Dark Knight, I feel like every movie's had to get dark and grim and more violent. After Bourne, you have to find a more creative way to kill. Like
more kinetic
John Wick has a
fighting.
pencil kill. Like everything
Yeah.
does something weird. It's just nice to have a movie that's like, you know what? We just joust.
Yeah.
They had one sword fight, but it was an organized with blunted blades
Yeah.
for the tournament.
This takes the best of, in theory, this takes the best of like historical drama,
No.
of action comedy, and of sports movies.
Yeah.
And like kind of takes those themes and mixes them for the most part successfully enough where, you know, like your average person watching is probably just satisfied with the film.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a sports movie than an action or a comedy. Like,
Yeah.
it's a sports movie period piece, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's about competition. It's
Yeah.
about sportsmanship.
Yeah. Yeah, and one of the main conflicts was that Thatcher, Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein, wanted to... he was winning all these tournaments and making money, so he should have been satisfied, because now their whole crew isn't poor anymore and they can eat.
Yeah.
But he wanted to beat Count Adhemar, which is like the fatal flaw of his character, you could think, because it's his pride, and it didn't end up costing him anything. There was basically no consequence.
Yeah.
But
The consequence
It
would have been
could've.
his life.
yeah.
And they got close to it
Or the girl,
twice.
like
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
but
so
everything works out. Storybook ending.
you're not looking for this to like break the mold in the ending
No.
there.
No,
but,
I'm fine with it.
an audience score on this on Rotten Tomatoes is about 79%.
So that kind of supports my theory that it's a universally loved movie.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like audiences, I think they liked it. I think,
Yeah.
like we said, it came out after a Mummy.
Sure did.
The Mummy movies are really well liked, so
Yeah.
you just couldn't compete.
Well, I think if we're going to do like a box office autopsy, ooh, that should be the name of a segment.
Ooh.
Write that down. The reason this failed would be because of the tone.
Yeah.
There's not a clear audience for this movie.
Yeah.
Kids, they're trying to do a little everything, and I think they end up being a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, you know.
Just a sidebar thought. If you like this kind of setting of jousting and competition and like that whole feel,
yeah.
then I would suggest reading George R.R. Martin's, I know you've read these, Tales of Dunk and Egg.
They're very cool.
They're prequels to A Song of Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones.
Yep.
And honestly, the beginning of this, I'm guessing maybe that ties back to Chaucer, because the beginning of the first Dunk and Egg tale is a like beggar knight whose master had died and he was a squire.
Yeah.
And so he took his armor and just went and joined a, what do they call it? Jousting competition.
Yep.
So it's like literally the same setup. Read it. It's super interesting and fun, and read the rest of them because they're really good. I think they might be re-releasing them soon, or maybe it just came
In a
out.
new...
Like a new binding or something.
I would love HBO to do a like mini series of that one.
Oh, for sure.
It would be really cool.
I'm hoping from these like 4 or 5 candidate shows they're working at a Game of Thrones that's
Like the
that one-
spin-off
that one
ideas.
Yeah, that would be my ideal one. So,
Yeah, for me too.
because it's plus it's about 100 years, maybe 90 years before the first book Game of Thrones starts. So it's Westeros at its like peak.
Yep.
Not at war. Wars have come and gone.
Yeah.
It's a peacetime.
Yeah, there's
wars
whole,
brewing, but it's not happening.
There's whole threats
Yeah.
in the Game of Thrones series that aren't there, like
Yeah.
the White Walkers.
And it's about like maybe 10 years out from a civil war or 20 years out from a civil war that happened.
The Blackfire Rebellion?
Yeah. So it's
I
like
can't remember. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. It's removed far enough from a war where the effects are still there.
Yeah.
So and that was a civil war in the country. So
Yep.
it's super fun.
Yeah.
I say if you enjoyed the jousting aspect, like I said,
Yeah.
check those out. You'll really love those stories.
Jousting's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
I
cool,
would
man.
love to like a Ken Burns documentary or something on it. I would love to know what the strategies of jousting were.
Yeah.
Because they don't do a great job of explaining the rules. All I know is if you hit, you get a point. If you hit in the head, you get 2 points. And if you knock the guy off, I think you win. I think
Yeah.
that might be all the rules. But I'd love to know the strategies because William Thatcher has a shield and someone makes fun of him for it.
Yeah.
Not everybody has a shield like on his armor, a literal shield, not just a drawing.
Yeah.
And he had a shield, and I wonder if there's strategy to that or anything. But
Yeah, I think there is, and I think there's strategy to like making your lance explode on contact.
I'm sure there's
Yeah.
strategy. I'm just be interested in knowing what it
yeah,
was.
yeah, exactly. I'm just saying, there's a lot of nuance there you can't pick
Yeah.
up in 2 hours and 12 minutes.
Yeah, in a 2 hour and 12-minute movie that wants to do literally everything it can.
And I do feel medieval Scott would know more about jousting than anyone else in the village.
I feel like medieval Scott. I'm trying to think of what medieval Scott would even do. You know, I don't think I'd be a blacksmith. I don't think I could handle the heat.
Nah.
Maybe like I work for the town Gazette, you know. Were there newspapers in those days?
I don't think so. You'd probably be in the clergy then.
No, I don't think I'd be.
No,
in the
there's only
clergy.
one male in your family, so you'd be like the heir to whatever.
I need to.
The tenants.
I need to take care of house tenant. Maybe I'd be like I don't know, man.
Maybe you're innkeepers.
Yeah, I could see us running an inn for sure.
You guys could have a lot of tenants there.
I have one more thought on A Knight's Tale.
Shoot.
It's a very sour note. There is a scene after the credits in this movie that's on par with Master of Disguise and how stupid it is.
Yeah.
There's no reason for it. I wasn't expecting an after credit scene. I jumped on my computer right afterward. I don't remember what I was doing, but I was starting to work on something else, and the credits were just rolling because the music was playing and I didn't mind. And then an after credit scene came on. I was like, oh, what's this? Thinking maybe it was a blooper. It was a prolonged fart gag between basically your whole main crew except Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
Where they all out-fart each other until Alan Tudyk comes up and he just lets out a tiny toot.
Yeah. And also the
so
female in the
dumb.
scene did the biggest fart.
Yeah.
It was predictable and dumb.
Yeah.
It's a bad piece of punctuation to an okay film.
An Academy Award-winning writer said, hey, we're going to end with this.
Let's end with a fart.
No. Let's end with 5. Ugh. But A Knight's Tale, I did not like it as much this time I watched it. It's still a totally harmless and pretty fun movie.
Yeah.
Like, it flies by. I always think that's a big win for a movie.
If it moves.
When it moves really well. And there really isn't any harm in it.
Yeah.
There's no whitewashing. There's no, veiled homophobia or anything.
Really the biggest detriment to it is that it just perpetuates cinema sexism by having really weak female characters.
Yeah.
But
it didn't try very hard.
That's a drop in a giant bucket there. So
you can even argue that they were being period appropriate.
Yeah. The dumb parts are dumb. The fun parts are fun.
Yeah.
I think most people can watch it and get something out of it, like you said.
Yeah. Your whole cocktail is a mixed drink that maybe you don't ask for again, but you finish it.
If anything now, looking back at Heath Ledger's career, it's just fun to watch him because I miss him because he was a great actor.
Yeah, and
and this doesn't show his full talent, but he's still charming in it. Yeah,
it shows why he became, you know, a tentpole actor. You know, someone that when he was in a movie, it was a big deal. Like after Brokeback Mountain and Dark Knight, Heath Ledger was a huge name to have on your cast sheet. So it's kind of cool to see where that came from.
He's one of those that if we had him around still, I'm sure he'd be doing great things.
For sure.
So maybe we'd see less of Johnny Depp. You know what I'm saying?
Anything for less Johnny Depp. It's kind of cool to see big stars in their movies before this. Like we joked about Bubble Boy earlier for Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
But even like Donnie Darko and stuff. Like he's a smaller actor then. And then
Accidental Love. Don't forget that one.
Oh God, I did. Then like Matt Damon was in like The Talented Mr. Ripley and Good Will Hunting and stuff. It's cool to see these really big stars now in those roles where they were kind of plucky, and this is that for.
It's funny with speaking of Matt Damon with Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
All of his early roles he played douchebag. No matter what, just jerk douchebag. And now in his big roles, half of them are jerk douchebag.
Yeah, like Gone Girl.
Yeah. So
was a really good version.
He's always typecast. I do notice like Argo, he's less of a douchebag. He has a beard. He was in charge of that film.
I wonder if that's because he directed it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I think maybe. But then again, he'd probably put himself as a douchebag as well because he's good at it.
It sure is.
So
Bruce Wayne, kind of a douchebag.
There you go.
Quick last thought, not related to A Knight's Tale, but on Ben Affleck. On another new segment I'm starting, the Max Caro meter. Max Caro meter. 0 to 10 cares. 10 being you really care, 0 you don't care. You just announced a sequel to The Accountant. Ben Affleck returning, Gavin O'Connor returning to direct. Does Max care? How many cares?
I haven't seen The Accountant. I always forget about it. So that's like a 3
out of
on the
10? Care.
Have you seen it?
No, I don't care.
Yeah. So
it looks just like Autistic Born.
Yeah, I like Ben Affleck.
I like Gavin O'Connor.
I think Affleck's a good actor. I think he's a strong director.
Yeah.
I'd like to see now that he's gone through some alcohol rehab, I'd like to see him kind of get the reins on his career and do something cool again. Not that he's done anything bad. He just,
apparently
he's just been here for a while.
Is it Live by Night or Live by Night?
I honestly don't. I think it's Live by Night.
That was
a
an
stinker.
epic flop, though. So he has done bad, but
well, I mean, what I mean by like that is he hasn't like ruined his career, but it's just he hasn't done anything exciting for a while.
Yeah, as a total star.
Yeah. So maybe him and Matt Reeves can make a good Batman.
Yeah, hopefully.
Maybe I'll catch these accountant movies and maybe I'll enjoy them.
Yeah.
But
I just find it to be like a paycheck for him.
He's definitely a paycheck actor. He'll do the paychecks to do the fun real movies.
Yeah.
And he's always been that way.
Yeah.
Matt Damon's always been a little bit more selective.
Yep.
But he's done a couple paychecks here and there, but nothing major.
Jason Bourne's probably a paycheck.
By now, yeah. But at the same time, that's a vacation movie for him too. He probably gets to go to like South Africa, So
Classic
it's paycheck
vacation.
and vacay. So
Paycheck vacay.
yeah, no, we can check in on this meter every now and then.
Yeah, I'm going to. We're going to return to it all the time. Max, where can the good people find us?
Well, you can find us falsifying our credentials to get food and glory, or you could just go to thecriticalbreakdown.com. You can find me wearing Nike-approved armor.
I was going to say that.
Or you can just find me on Twitter at Max Rivera Film.
You can find me settling gambling debts with Jeffrey Chaucer. Or you can find me at breakdown_Scott on Instagram. I'm going to stick with that. It's all pictures of my pug, but I don't tweet. I didn't when I knew my password, and I don't when I don't.
If you like pug pictures, follow.
Boom. We got a Facebook. Did you already say that?
Nah.
Yeah, we got one. It's The Critical Breakdown. Follow us. You get all our updates.
We got
blog
We got
posts.
everything. We got Twitters.
We got GIFs sometimes. GIF or GIF?
I'm a GIF boy.
I'm a GIF boy too, but the guy who invented it said it's a GIF. GIF's a peanut butter.
You know why I'm a GIF boy? Because I'm a hard G.
Oh, God. We got to get out of here. Website, The Critical Breakdown Podcast. No. Email, The Critical Breakdown Podcast at gmail.com. Website, thecriticalbreakdown.com. Jason Brown, music. Josh Rivera, art. Wally, dog, us, boys.
Singing, we will rock you. We will rock you.
Next week on The Critical Breakdown.
Things are going to get scary when we watch Friday the 13th.
Welcome to Camp Silver Lake? Is that not this?
It's not.
We will rock you.